What's up guys, Mr. SLIN here with another video talking about competitive TF2. Now I announced in my last video that I'm going to be not playing next season, that I'm going to be returning to the world of casting. But before I do that, I wanted to tell you guys, I wanted to impart the knowledge in my brain. I wanted to tell you guys what it was that I learned this last season and what it was that I was working on, so that any up and coming medics who are looking to improve their game can watch this video and say, hey, I can work on those things, I know how to do those things, and I can get better as medic, and you can pick up where I left off. So that way the knowledge that I've gained in the last years of me playing are not going to be lost, and it's not going to fall on deaf ears, hopefully. So hopefully you guys will learn something about medic in this video. A little bit about my history, of course. I've been playing TF2 for 8 years now. I started in March 2008. I did a lot of pubbing when I first started playing. Then I mained Spy when I was a pubber. Then I played Scout for 2 years, and then I swapped over to Medic. And I played Medic probably for about 4 years. So I have a lot of experience on Medic. And I've been playing, as far as my Medic gameplay goes, I played at the top end of Open many times, and then I also played mostly in Intermediate. So these last 3 months for me have been the most productive months that I've ever had. This is, like I said, the best performance that I've ever had, and I don't want this knowledge to just sort of go to the waste. I mean, sure, I'm going to bring it with me when I do my casts. I'm going to bring it alongside of me, but I'm not actively working on getting really good at the game. Instead, what my focus is going to be on in the future is just studying high-level gameplay and learning more about the game, becoming well-rounded. But I still feel like when I was playing Medic, when I was practicing every day, I had these set of skills that I was constantly working on, and that list of skills was never ending. I was constantly just trying to pick up the next thing. What is the next thing that I'm trying to work on? What is the next thing that I can do that would make me a better player? And obviously, if you guys are really new to the game and you're watching this video, I mean, get the basics down first. Get your mechanics down, get your ability to talk and play at the same time, just the really obvious stuff. But if you're playing an intermediate and you feel like you want to push your game to the next level, here's what I did, okay? So when I was first playing an intermediate, people told me that my movement was really, really bad, that I was really predictable, that I was easy to hit, and that I just didn't seem to have control of my character. So I took a lot of time to work on that by doing surfing. Now, why did I choose surfing? I chose surfing. If you guys haven't played surfing before, skill surfing, it's this map where you kind of just float through. It's an obstacle course. It helps you practice your air strafing. It helps you practice your conservation of momentum while you're in the air. A lot of people poo-poo surfing because they say that the settings that are used on surf servers do not exactly mimic the settings that are used in game. And it's true. When you're in a surf server, they actually turn up your ability to turn. So you can actually turn up faster in a surf server than you can in a normal server, which is why a lot of people say that jump servers are better. But I didn't really like jumping, and I just wanted to have a chill session, just hop into a server, chill out, turn some music on and just fly through the air. I really like racing games. So the surfing really appealed to me. And I feel like after putting, 500-600 hours into surfing, that I got a lot better at my movement. A lot of people, like I said, just don't like surfing, but there's a lot of high-level TF2 players that do know how to surf because there is some value there. I'm pretty convinced of it. So I practice a lot of surfing, but as far as my actual medic gameplay goes, the biggest thing, the one thing that I could recommend to any medic that will make you instantly better is if you can keep track of Ubers so accurately, as accurately as you possibly can. If you can keep track of Ubers very accurately, you will take care of a majority of what you need to do as a medic. My teammates told me throughout this last season that the one thing that I need to do as a medic is focus on keeping track of Ubers, worry less about the main calling, worry less about telling my teammates where I am at any given moment and that kind of stuff. Focus really hard on keeping track of Ubers, because a lot of my teammates, with their fragging classes, right? Everyone else is playing Demo Man, Soldier, Scout. They're not thinking necessarily or as closely as I am about, what the Uber percentages are. They're thinking about, oh, how much health does that guy have? Can I kill him? What's the positioning like? What's the situation? But the guiding decision-making factor in Six's TF2 is when you become invincible next. Becoming invincible is a very important part of the game, and the person on the team that is most equipped to talk about the Uber percentages at any given moment is the medic. Not only can you see your own Uber percentage, but you also know how well you've been building your Uber. If you've been building really well, then you can tell your teammates, hey, I've been building really well, maybe I have an advantage. Or if you haven't been building as well, maybe you've been dropping the beam here and there, maybe you've been surfing away from damage, getting health packs, your beam has been disconnecting here and there, you just haven't been building that well. That's good information as well. And the only person on the team, again, the only other person on the team that might know what's going on is the pocket soldier, but he's probably not thinking about it as closely as you are. And as my teammates would say, that I have no excuse because I'm not killing anything, so I really don't have an excuse to not think about that. But it does take some multitasking. You're thinking about the game, you're thinking about not dying, you're thinking about your positioning, but constantly just get that timer in your brain of like, what is the Uber percentage like? And one of the tips that one of my subscribers gave me, Mike Spam watches a lot of League of Legends, and one of the tips that he gave me from League of Legends is that use a metronome. So what League of Legends players would do is they use a metronome, they set it to every 5 seconds, 10 seconds, and every time the metronome beeps, you look at your minimap every single time. And as a medic, when I hear that metronome beeping, so I downloaded a metronome program. I'll put the link to it in the description of this video. I would put the metronome on, and then every 6 seconds, when I heard that beep, I'd be like, oh, we have 10% advantage. Oh, we have 30% advantage. And I would just constantly be calming it out. And my teammates, I noticed that when I did this, my teammates made significantly better decisions in game because they always knew what the Ubers were like and they always knew how to play around it. If our team made a mistake, if we made a bad play call, I made damn sure it wasn't going to be because we didn't know what the percentages were. It's going to be because we made the wrong decision. Right? That's what you want it to be. You don't want your bad decision making to be a result of you not knowing what's going on. You want it to be, I made this decision and this decision caused us to fail, so we're going to make a different decision next time. That's what you want it to be, right? And don't get me wrong, I did make mistakes. I lost track of Uber sometimes. Sometimes I'm playing a mid fight and I'm just focused. Some soldier bombs me, they double soldier bomb me. I'm juggling around. I'm worried about what's going to happen to me next, but I didn't keep track of like whether or not their medic died at middle. Try your best. Sometimes ask your teammates for help. They can help you along the way. But if you can just keep track of Uber percentage, that'll take you very, very far. The next thing I wanted to talk about was sort of like my survivability as a medic. And this will be somewhat controversial, but my teammate, Marmaduke Grills, what he told me, he tried to nail this into my brain, is play as selfishly as you possibly can, given the circumstances. You obviously want to be healing, but your survival is yours fault alone. So what he meant by that was, obviously your teammates are supposed to protect you. Obviously your teammates are the barrier between you and the enemy. If you don't have your teammates hitting their shots, protecting you, there with you, playing as team players, you're going to die. But at the level of TF2 that I was playing at, when you're out on like a top 15 team, your teammates are going to hit their shots most of the time. And your teammates are going to try and protect you most of the time. So when you die, it's technically your fault. You might have run too far ahead. You might have, not seen someone around the corner, or you didn't think about the trap being there, or you didn't consider a certain sniper sight line, or you didn't turn around enough times when there could have been a spy. Your death is your fault. And when you think about the game in this manner, you suddenly have to increase your game sense tenfold. So no longer are you as the medic blaming your teammates for your death. If you died, it's because you were in the wrong spot. Now you might say, oh, well, I was up at the choke healing my teammate, which he should have turned around and protected me. No, you back up, you leave your teammate there. If your teammate is preoccupied, if your teammate thinks there's something else more important to do, let him do that thing, and you just run away and position yourself in the correct location every single time. So that if your teammate is overextended, you're not paying the price for that, okay? And the reason why you need to think this way is because when you are overextended, typically as the medic, you are going to be the first target. People are going to hit you first. So it's like you don't know if your teammate is overextended because they shot you first and not your teammate. So if you back up more, they'll shoot your teammate and not you. So your teammate will be overextended at that point. I kind of went over that very quickly, but I'll say it one more time, slower. If you are overextended, you're going to get shot first. So if you think that your teammate is the one that's overextended and not you, you should back up and put yourself in the right spot and let your teammate pay the price. Let your teammate get picked off for being overextended. It's his fault. He's in the wrong spot. Let him die. Your job is to back up and stay alive, because the most important class in TF2 right now to not die is the medic. Every time the medic dies, sure, you can potentially blame your teammates for not protecting you, but there's probably something you could have done about it. You could have been further away. You could have been near a health pack. You could have done something. You could have surfed a rocket. There's something you could have done, and you need to think about the game in this way, very analytical. Just be like constantly reevaluating your gameplay and saying to yourself, what could I have done? What could I have done personally to change the circumstances there? So if you think about it in that manner, it's really helpful. I feel like it just makes you a lot better. The third thing I did, and this is kind of controversial, is I dropped a lot of Ubers, and I took a lot of flack from the community for a long time for dropping Ubers. I will admit that some of the Ubers that I dropped were just mechanical error, just not popping Ubers in time. But I'm pretty convinced that I have about average reaction time, meaning like I don't have like above average reaction time. I'm not gonna be able to pop it every single time before a rocket hits my face. But my reaction time isn't like supremely slow. Like I've taken a couple reaction time tests online just to make sure. Like there's a couple different ones you can do. There's ones like with like a sheep, and as soon as the sheep moves, you like click and it tests like, as long as you have like a 0.2 millisecond. I don't know what the actual number was, but 0.2 millisecond, reaction time. It's just about average. I think most of my Ubers were not a result of me like not reacting in time or whatever. I also played on 100 ping. That I could have used that as an excuse as well. The main reason why I dropped Ubers is because I didn't expect to drop the Uber there. I didn't expect to get attacked. And I think that if you're looking for that, if you're looking to get attacked, then you're in the right mindset to pop the Uber and prevent that from happening. Does that make sense? So when you're playing those reaction time games, for example, the sheep one where the sheep moves and you click, you're looking for a sheep to move. You're like waiting for the sheep to move. And as soon as you see that sheep move, you're clicking. You know what I'm saying? When I was dropping Ubers, a lot of times I would just get blindsided. A lot of times I just didn't see something that was going to happen. Like maybe I was looking forward really intently and a soldier just comes up behind me and shoots me. Or I'm looking one direction, arrowing a friend of mine, and some other dude just comes out of another doorway and hits me in the back. I feel like a lot of my Ubers came in those situations. There's going to be Ubers that you drop that are not your fault. Your teammates didn't check a trap. Your teammates didn't look around a corner and see the roaming soldier hiding there or the scout hiding there, or they didn't properly check for certain things. Some of them are out of your control. It's going to show up on the stats. People are going to laugh at you for it. It's not your fault. But there are some that are within your control. And like I said, you need to have enough foresight. You need to think, okay, what is the thing that's going to screw me over the most right here? What is the one thing that's going to happen that will cause us to lose the game? And if the answer to that is dropping Uber or not popping the Uber, just get into that mindset of thinking a couple steps ahead and being like, okay, like I should be looking for a roaming soldier here. Okay, I should be looking for a trap here. Okay, we just wiped them on middle, so they're probably going to run a sniper. Or we just wiped everybody. The Devilman spawned super early. Maybe there's a trap going to be, around this corner. So just like think about that kind of thing. And this goes back to kind of the second point that I made earlier, which is the positioning. At the highest levels of the game right now, a trend that I'm noticing among medics is that you delay your pushes super hard in order to not use Uber. So let's say you're pushing a point and you do not want to use Uber. You kind of like buff your teammates, let them run in like really far ahead of you, and you just delay super far back. So that way, that roaming soldier is going to bomb. That sniper is going to try and peek for you. You're just hiding. You're like nowhere near there. Your teammates take the point for free, and then you walk up. That's kind of the thing that I've been thinking about a lot lately, is like the right times to delay and the right times to come in with your teammates. I mean, like I said before, and this goes back to the very first point, you don't want to be like baiting your teammates. You don't want to be so selfish about your gameplay to where you're leaving your teammates high and dry. You obviously want to be with your teammates, putting out as much heals as you possibly can, but your life, your priority as a medic is your life, not popping Ubers in good situations. Moving on, I do want to talk about what a good Uber looks like and what a bad Uber looks like, because I popped a lot of bad Ubers. And this was something that like I noticed that Banny would try and teach me when I was playing Pugs, and I just never really quite understood the concept, but I'm kind of starting to understand the concept more and more as I watch other medics playing. And that is that when you pop an Uber, you really want to be accomplishing something. You want to be either getting kills with that Uber, you want to be forcing their Uber, you want to be going into the next like zone, going into the next control point area, you do not want to be popping an Uber and then staying in the same place, unless you're on defense and you have no choice. You know, if you're going to be popping the Uber first, you want to be doing something active with it. You want to be taking ground. You want to be, you know, getting kills. You want to be, you know, pushing forward and creating space. You do not want to pop an Uber that doesn't create space. If you do pop an Uber that doesn't create space, again, refer to my previous points. Do not be overextended. Do not be in the wrong spot. You know, that'll help prevent bad Ubers from happening. But yeah, you really want to be super mindful about how you use Ubers. I think that Ubers are probably one of the toughest things in the game. Even at the invite level, a lot of people still make mistakes with the Ubers. It's a really difficult thing to do well because the mindset is, I want to have the perfect Uber. And so often you will not have the perfect Uber, but you should always strive for the perfect Uber. You should always strive for good situations. And also the difficult part about the Ubers is that there's so many ways to play them. One of the medics that I used to look up to, You Must Mike, his entire strategy with Ubers was to never use the Uber. It was always like, I'm going to threaten to Uber you onto you, and you're going to get scared of me Ubering onto you, but I'm never actually going to do it. I think that kind of strategy was like ahead of its time because you're just taking a lot of ground not using the Uber. Eventually, you'll get to a team that'll call you on your bluff and say, I know you're not going to use Uber, and they're going to force you to use it. So the other side of the coin, which is I'm going to, you know, always try and use Ubers aggressively into the other team. So there's tons of different ways you can play the game. I think that people are still trying to figure that part of it out. There's still a lot of development to do there, but as far as like your medic gameplay goes, that's kind of where I left off, was trying to figure out how to get better Ubers. The last point that I will make is about communication, and I felt like my communication style was not to main call. And I felt like when I was playing with lower level players, I did have the ability to main call because I had a better idea of what was going on. But I feel that if you had to choose, so let's say you had two players on your team that were equally good at calling, I would say that your medic should not be making that many calls based around like positioning. And I feel like medic can be in a situation where he can main call, but he's really not the best class at doing it. And the reason why I say that is because the medic technically is positioned behind everybody else, and the medic should never be in the front of everybody else unless you're like blocking a sentry or something. So you're really not in the best position to scout out information. You're not in the best position to see what's going on around corners. You're supposed to be playing safe. You're supposed to be playing with line of sighting things and that kind of stuff. So my recommendation is, you know, if you have a strong teammate who can main call, let them main call instead. Unless your main calling is so accurate, so precise, so just on point, or your teammates are really lacking in that category, I kind of tend to stay away from the main calling as a medic. That's just my recommendation. Obviously, you do make main calls when you are talking about Uber situations, because again, you're in tune with what's going on with the Ubers. So you say, hey, look, we have a 30% advantage. We got to do something with this. That's a main call, right? But like, as far as a lot of the other parts of the game goes, I tend to stay away from that. And luckily for me, I had vocal teammates. If you watch Froyotech scrimming, you'll see that Banny does a lot of the comms. And I was watching a stream today. Shade was not doing as much of the comms. He was hardly comming at all. So just keep those kinds of things in mind. And gosh, I think those are the main things that I was working on when I was. I mean, this is like my last week of playing. I was doing some tryouts earlier this week, so this is all fresh in my mind. But yeah, as far as my actual healing order goes, something that I did when I was like a mid IM medic was really try and dump all of my heals into my scouts. And I always felt that scouts were the best people at protecting me. They were always the ones that could create space. They were always the ones that were the most valuable classes to keep alive. And it's fairly widely recognized now that scout is probably the most powerful class in the game right now. But as I started playing more and more this season, I noticed, and my teammates really noticed, they really pushed this on me, that I was starving my demo man for heals. I wasn't putting enough healing into my demo man. And then in some of my tryouts, I noticed that I wasn't really healing my soldiers enough either. What I will say about this is there isn't, like, you shouldn't just be dumping heals into scouts. You really think that it's beneficial to heal scouts. Technically, scouts are the most heal efficient target that you can possibly heal, because Given that medics heal at a flat rate of 24 health per second, you will get more out of healing a scout than you would out of any other class technically. But you also have to keep in mind that scouts can do a pretty good job of dodging and staying alive while they're not getting healed. And that even though you could heal your scouts to create space, you might also want to heal your demo man to create space as well sometimes. Your demo man is really good at making space on high ground. You need to keep your demo man alive. It's really important to have that class alive at all times. And as far as your soldiers go, it's really nice. Like I remember many times throughout this last season where my soldiers saying it's nice to have a buff heading into the next fight. And sometimes you will rush the push and people will get starved for heals. It's all based on how your team wants to do the pacing of things. But yeah, I would say that I wouldn't put as much emphasis on healing the scouts as I thought it was. I was pretty extreme about it. I was just like dumping everything into scouts. I wouldn't go that far. Okay, I think I talked about a lot. If I have more ideas, if I've been watching, I'm going to be studying a lot more TF2 this season. So as I get more ideas into my mind about how to play the game, I'll be sure to make more videos like this. If you like this kind of video, if you have questions, feel free to post in the comments, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Catch you later.